Hi, I'm Binu Anamavarghese and my student ID is X18141633 and my project is about container-based video game offloading using fog computing with greedy algorithms. Area of research. The main areas of research in the proposed system are gaming, fog computing, and container-based offloading. Gaming is one of the hotspot research topic nowadays because it's the real-time gaming we consider major factors like latency, efficiency, performance of the system. We can also use the proposed system in similar server-client environment where the delay should be minimum. Fog computing, also known as fogging or edge computing, that uses edge devices to carry out certain amount of computation, storage, and communication locally and are routed over the cloud. Instead of sending raw data to the cloud, it sends processed data, which minimizes the latency between input and the response. Container-based offloading. There are two different containers that are used nowadays, Docker and Kubernetes. In the proposed system, we use Docker as it is the lightweighted and the most secured software used in cloud. Current solution. It's nothing but the current days games which are being used. So the main types of games that are used nowadays are retro games, mobile games, and the Xbox. They do not have cloud system or they are like mostly require an extra software and a hardware for the running purposes. Limitations. The following are the current limitations that we face in the current solution. Firstly, cost. The games are really expensive nowadays, while compared to the retro times. Secondly, extra hardware. Nowadays, we need to use an extra hardware like um, where we play an extra amount on the hardware or the software of the game which we want to use. There are dedicated computers which are brought just for gaming purposes, which means large computers that are brought especially for the gaming purposes. Even now, there are some kind of latency issues which we face while playing games in the real-time environment. It is most likely that we lose all game credentials if something goes wrong with the application. Some games are also provided to users with very low quality of experience and are not capable to all devices. By looking into this slide, we can understand the minimum and the recommended requirements which we need to have or consider while playing games in the PC or in a laptop. Minimum requirement in the PC should be Intel i3 and most likely recommended is to have at least Core i5. The RAM can be 4 GB. It works on all latest Windows OS. For video card, the minimum requirement can be Intel HD 3000. Whereas coming to the recommended systems, it can be GTX 1050 Ti. The minimum requirement for the pixel and the vertex shutter can be 3.0, while the preferred system requirements can be 5.1, whereas it is recommended to have a dedicated RAM, especially for playing games. Proposed system. In the proposed system, we have a Docker image creation, cloud game server, offloading to the fog server, a communication between the fog server and the thin clients. Initially, while doing the implementation, we create a Docker image with the required libraries and the packages which are packages that needs to be installed because Docker container does not support graphical display. So we need to have an X window which needs to be installed in the Docker file for creating a Docker image. with the graphical support. NVIDIA supports graphics which has GPU acceleration along with the image. All game configuration has to be pre-built inside the Docker file. For cloud game server, it is actually the Ubuntu machine, which is the base with the GPU support, which needs to be launched. The cloud server needs to have a container package installed along with the other networking packages. The connection of the traffic outbound and the inbound rules needs to be modified according to the client traffic flow. Offloading to the Cloud Fog server. The Docker image which contains the game server and the game configuration are offloaded and deployed at the Cloud Fog server. The game server actually starts with a fog node. Um, the proposed gaming model is to minimize the latency from the traditional model. Since the Docker image is created and offloaded, all the prerequisite of the game will be installed, which while the development installed with um, 10 times faster compared to the traditional deployment. Communication between the Frog server and the thin clients. The fog nodes receive the public IP of the player from the cloud server. Therefore, the player request will be dispatched to the thin clients and the communication will be established. Here in this slide, we look into the workflow of the proposed architecture. At first, the request is dispatched from the thin client to the cloud server. Then the cloud server identifies the public IP address of the player and sends an input to the greedy algorithm. The algorithm helps with the selection of the nodes with the minimum latency to the user by also meeting the quality of user experience threshold limits. Nodes are selected at the edge network of the player and the command to the deploy the container image will be sent. Once the container image is deployed, the game server will be ready to host the game. It receives the public IP of the player from the cloud game server. Therefore, the play request will be dispatched to the thin clients and the communication will be established. Once it is done, the game starts to play. The game and the player's actions will be sent to the network. The command emulator transforms the action into commands. The commands are executed as per the logic. Once the logic is applied, the game videos are generated through the graphics rendering process. The game video will be encoded through the video encoder and transferred to the video streaming service. Once the video streaming service sends the encoded video to the thin client and the encoded video will be decoded, then the game will be streamed back to the player's device. The unique value proposition of the project is the greedy algorithm. The main idea to propose the algorithm is because of the utility in the formula as the greedy selection target and the global minimum utility values is selected to each step to try which to allocate to the greedy as the greedy by the greedy algorithm, as it cannot ensure the global optimal solution, but it can definitely ensure the solution for the search that will finish in time and the quality of the offloading services will not be affected. Now let's look into the proposed system, how it works and what are the process that needs to be done.
At first, we need to install the dependencies. As you can see, Game Anywhere basically supports the Ubuntu 16.04 version. Here, I have created folders with the Game Anywhere and the Assault Cube game. This is Assault Cube game is nothing but the first person game which is installed. As shown in the configuration manual, mm, we have lots of other libraries and dependencies which needs to be installed at the beginning. Since it takes a lot of time, let's go actually to the commands directly. So these are the commands which are actually required for the streaming. So let's start with this one. And the repository of multiverse is also needed. Since we have already enabled all this, it says all these stores are already done. This command is especially for the display. Here we use the X11 just for the graphical purposes. So that we have X11 installed already. Yeah, so this command is for the gaming anywhere like the Assault Cube Linux configuration is actually used. So in this, as you see, the configuration for the Assault Cube game, the work with the game server and the event driven. The core facilities include game server.config. The video and the FPC, the frame per second, is actually 50 for the Assault Cube, and the audio is in it like it takes 1000 seconds. Um, and the filter source and XFIL is RGBA. The audio is enabled, the server rate is also enabled, the server token is filled up to 20,000, the server number token to fill is 1, the server maximum tokens it can accept is 2. Okay, let's see the next command. So here we are just going to see if the configuration is emission is denied. Let's give sudo and paste. Yeah, so it's accepted. So sudo is one of the basic command. When you have to install something here, this has to be the first thing which needs to be done. Paste this one. Yeah, so here also you get the configuration, or the LinCube configuration is actually done. Moving on to the next command. We are just seeing whether Debian configuration is actually done. Sorry, it's nothing. We just have to. Yeah, so the keyboard configuration already exists in the newest version. We have already installed it, so we get this commands. Anyway, let's not give it a try. So let's install all the other commands. These are all in the, since I've already installed all these, so these are all in the updated version. The curl is also installed. Now let's see if the server of Assault Cube is actually configured. Okay, there is some error which is occurred because as you see, that's a bad value, the integer parameter and out of the operation. The major opcode with the request file is 152. This is where the issue we are facing. But if this issue is solved, I think we will be able to run the game directly in the system. The future work. More games will be developed using virtual reality. Artificial intelligence is nowadays one of the hot topics, so it can play a major role in future gaming in the next also. And the home hardware for games may also disappear. So AI advancement will lead to creating more smart games, which will change the future of the gaming industry. Thank you.